Welcome. This past weekend we've seen some unfortunate news about former WWE superstar Virgil. This has come from a series of tweets that he did that I'll read shortly, but unfortunately it seems that he is facing some potentially very severe health issues. For those who may be a little bit too young or don't really know who Virgil is, which I'm sure is not probably a lot of wrestling fans, but Virgil is best remembered as the manservant for the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. He served in that role for quite some time until turning on Ted at the Royal Rumble 1991. This led inevitably to a feud between Virgil and Ted, including a run for Virgil as the $1 Million champion, and he didn't really have a tremendous amount of success, unfortunately, after that. It was a very short feud, I think. I don't think Virgil lasted too long in WWE, unfortunately, after that feud ended. He did end up appearing later on in WCW under the name Vincent, being a member of the New World Order. When they started to pack in a lot of members, and obviously Ted wasn't part of the NWO, Vincent appears. I've not really gone back and looked see exactly how that happened, but certainly Vincent was a part of the NWO when there were multiple factions, and ended up being a part of the NWO Black and White faction and fought, I think it was Uncensored in '99. Well, he and Stevie Ray and a couple others ended up fighting around that time for leadership of the NWO Black and White, when everybody else had, when the NWO had split, and there was the NWO Wolfpack and the NWO Red and Black, and kind of when they were getting into the various iterations of the New World Order at that time. So it's very sad. His Twitter is at @TheRealVirgil. I will put them on the screen as I read them out to you, but these are the series. This is the series of tweets that Virgil put out. Dearest Meat Sauce Mafia, I am grateful that I can communicate something that has happened to me. Unfortunately, I have some really hard news to share. If you were wondering why I haven't been so engaged over the last few weeks, it's because I was given bad news. Since Mania weekend, of all weekends, I was not feeling so great. Something wasn't right. My head, my arm, and my heart. When I came back from Dallas, I ended up going to the doctor and they discovered a whole bunch of issues. For starters, without me knowing, over the past few months, the doctor had identified that I suffered 2 massive strokes. Like I didn't even have a clue till I started not working with one of my arms. It's basically not able to do anything. This was the decent news. The worst news that I have been told that I am fighting with an early stage of dementia. The years of taking the big main event bump every night that nobody else wanted to take had started to affect me. I'm nervous, I'm scared, and God knows I can't afford to get through this and even make a living. It's really sad, as all I want to do is have fun and do what I always do: survive. What am I asking for? Well, for starters, my roommate and team have helped me with this page to help me get by. I'll also sell autographs video shoutouts, or even if you could download my $2 video game on both iOS and Android, just look up Meat Sauce Madness. It means everything. I am asking you to send this out to all your friends, family, or anyone that you ever thought loved wrestling. It all helps. I ain't looking for sympathy. I am looking for the love I have poured into this business to hopefully carry me through this time. I did my time. I took my lumps. Now I am just trying to survive. Hope this makes sense. Love you all. And that was actually a serious tweet that he put up on the 16th of April 2022. Again, at the real Virgil. That is certainly a very sad situation to hear about. I know many people have, of course, their own opinions, their own experiences, their own stories of Virgil, and I know that he's become, over the last decade or so, a bit of a figure of fun in terms of professional wrestling business. The lonely Virgil memes and gifs and stuff on social media have become a thing in professional wrestling. I know he's kind of leaned into it. I think I have to agree with people like Colt Cabana and others. You know, he's kind of leaned into it. I'm sure I heard Colt Cabana on a podcast quite a while ago talk about he's kind of leaned into the character. He's kind of bought into the gimmick a little bit, or kind of, I mean, I don't blame him, obviously, because I don't, to be honest, I think he's earning that much money, obviously, from wrestling these days. I think he kind of leaned into it and kind of accentuated the character a little bit. How much of it is really him, how much of it's the Virgil character, I'm not too sure. I know everybody tends to share their stories of Virgil. It's become kind of a typical podcast question on some of these podcasts, and I don't really listen to wrestling podcasts as much as vehemently as I used to, but that certainly for a few years became one of the questions that some of the wrestling podcasts would ask guests, whether it be somebody that wrestled in the same era, the late 80s, early 90s, like Virgil did, or fans who have met him, or some story to tell. They would obviously ask for it. They would ask, you know, do you have a story about Virgil? What's your experience with him? Do you know, have you met him? And if they have, you know, they'll well, what's your story? And I know people have their own different opinions on him, some good, some bad. I know he has tried to kind of book him and Ted together when Ted obviously isn't represented by him in the past, and Ted obviously unknowingly doesn't appear because you know, Virgil promised whoever it is, you know, oh, well, me and Ted will come along, and then obviously just Virgil, oh, Ted couldn't make or something, and various different people have their own stories, good and bad, from Virgil. I have to say that even though in saying all of that, and he's become, you know, like kind of like my late friend, I knew a little bit, Dennis Stamp. You know, they're the kind of figures of fun, and you know, the ones that some people will will laugh with, and some people will laugh at. And I think, to be honest, he's in a difficult situation. We've seen quite a few times actually with people, wrestlers of that era, the 1980s and early 90s. You know, the later on in life they struggle financially. They struggle with things that happen in life, with the effects of wrestling on their bodies. You know, not all of them are lucky enough, not even just to be, if they're still with us, but not all of them are lucky enough to be able to perhaps go into other ventures, or even still earn really good money from comic cons, conventions, wrestling get-togethers, independent dates around the world in various different countries. Not everybody is lucky that that they're able to do that, whether it be physically or whether there's just no interest a lot into these guys. And I do feel, you know, very, very sorry for Virgil and Mike Jones, I think his name is. I really feel sorry for him. Obviously Virgil was named after Dusty Rhodes' real name, Virgil Runnels. It was kind of a rib on the American Dream. I really do feel sorry for him, because if he's facing these health issues, he is very, like I said at the start, he is very potentially facing serious and severe health issues. 2 strokes he says he's had. No stroke is really, and I'm not a medical expert, but no stroke is really minimal, or just like a little paper cut kind of thing. No stroke at all can be really classified as a minor thing, although there is the doctors use, your minor stroke or a small stroke. And to be honest, in my opinion, there's nothing like, no such thing. If you have a stroke, it's a stroke, and especially if he is suffering also early sign of dementia, that is obviously very worrying as well. Again, no medical expert, but that I know just through just general life experience that there's obviously different levels of dementia. Some people can live fairly independent life for many years and not really affect them, and then other people, like pretty much a lot of diseases, some people can feel small effects on of it or symptoms, but others can, the disease, the condition can really affect them in their life and really take a hold of them. So I really do feel sorry for Mike Jones, Virgil. I really do feel sorry he's in that situation. I did meet him actually in August of 2011 myself. I know a couple of my friends have the wrestlers who have their own couple of stories about Virgil. A couple I obviously won't repeat because I can't quite remember the exact details of a couple of them. But he was here for about a week. He actually appeared with the $1 Million Man at an event from a promotion, and I think he seemed okay then. I mean, obviously he's always been a hustler. He's always been hustling for the money. Again, he's one of these guys that have kind of fallen, kind of really a little bit to the wayside, and there's not ever been a huge interest in Virgil and keeping him employed and keeping him at independent dates. And again, part of that is to do with the figure of fun. Well, part of why you can a little bit figure of fun, but certainly it's very sad when guys like this end up in this position. Like I said, that they aren't able to cope financially. They don't know, obviously, the savings. They haven't been paid the huge mega bucks that some of the wrestlers have, and they struggle later on in life again to physical, financially, and employment stuff. I think as a human being situation, I think it's really, really sad to see this happen. He has got links for the meatball madness, I think it's called. Meat Sauce Madness. Just double check my phone. Meat Sauce Madness is the game that released a few months ago. I don't know how popular it is or what it's like. I don't think my phone's a bit of an older phone, so it probably couldn't download it. But certainly, it's just a human being aspect of it. It's very sad when for quite decent starts. I mean, let's be honest, he's one of them. Him and Ted DiBiase, even though that was way back in '91 that they split, January of '91 at the Royal Rumble, that is still, especially by people my age, one of the most remembered acts of the World Wrestling Federation days in the late 80s, early 90s, is Ted DiBiase and Virgil and that whole storyline, and what Ted got up to in those kind of years. So it's a human being, and a human perspective, it's very, very sad to see him in this situation. I wish him all the best. I really hope that he has got people around him that can help. Maybe fans can kick in some money. I'm not asking people to, but if they want to, he's got links on his Twitter at @TheRealVirgil. It was really sad to see wrestlers and people even in this kind of situation. So I know he said he's not looking for sympathy, but my heart does go out to him. Hope that all is well, that he can get through this situation, survive. Maybe even if he's able to, maybe this will kind of get him a few more bookings. People will be able to take him at a few shows, try and get him, raise a little bit of money towards him, and generally help him out.